Has anybody ever thought about January 6th as a money-making opportunity? Strangest thing, an amazing story over at Mother Jones, motherjones.com. Dan Friedman, a senior reporter with the D.C. Bureau of Mother Jones, talking about it, writing about it. His Twitter handle, by the way, dfriedman33 or at Mother Jones. And Dan's on the line with us. Hey, Dan, welcome to the program. Tell us about this Meet the Operatives Who Profited from January 6th. What got you started on this particular story or beat?
Thanks for having me. I got started on this, I think really last year, about a year ago, when we were reading many of the transcripts that came out released by the January 6th committee right before they released their final report. And my colleague, Stephanie Mensimer and I were talking about all the grift that was kind of revealed in some of the transcripts and a lot of the backbiting among organizers of the January 6th rally who were accusing each other of making off with some of the money that they had raised and stuff like that. It took a while for me to have an opportunity to really drill down on it, but I think it's a pretty compelling theme, and it's something I think we see obviously throughout the MAGA movement, and even more broadly, that we think of a lot of people as ideologues who are doing stuff because they have sort of crazy ideology, which is often true, but in many cases there are financial incentives or clout incentives, and I think particularly with January 6th, we saw a lot of people who really were more operatives and I think pretty cynical, operating on a pretty cynical basis rather than even really caring that much what happened on January 6th in terms of the attack on the Capitol. They didn't want it to plan for it to happen necessarily, but they didn't really mind too much of it happen. They were busy getting paid.
So these are people who were, what, skimming money off the top as consultant fees or as salary or something like that, or?
Well, I think I spent a lot of time talking in the article about Caroline Wren, who's a Trump fundraiser, and she's now working for Kari Lake's the gubernatorial campaign in Arizona. Kari Lake, of course, is a prominent election denier. And Caroline Wren raised about $3 million from Julie Jenkins Vancelli, who is a Publix heiress, although the Publix has pointed out she has no ongoing...
The supermarket chain.
Yes, right, the supermarket chain. So she raised, it was around maybe more like 2.7 million ultimately. And the majority of that money, Wren suggested that Vancelli give it to several organs. Wren had existing agreements that paid her commissions. So she made commissions of between 5% and up to 15% on some of that money. And some of those organizations, like this PAC that was running ads in Georgia related to the special Senate elections that were happening there, runoff elections, had nothing to do with January 6th. But Wren suggested to Vancelli that they had some connection to January 6th and to her wish to try to help have the election overturned. Another organization is Turning Point USA, which at the time had no connection to January 6th. But Wren got Vancelli to give more than $1 million to that organization. Wren then made a 5% commission on that. So that's $50,000 right there. And then, they did become involved in January 6th. But what you see is, I think, Caroline Wren making some money off the desire of Julie Jenkins Vancelli to support this rally, whatever Caroline may have actually believed. And that's a good example, but there are many others that I get into in the story.
Yeah, people are, I think, somewhat familiar with, for example, Steve Bannon, his whole Build the Wall scam, where Trump supporters sent him millions and millions of dollars, and he basically just stuck it in his own pocket. I mean, he got convicted of that, and then Trump pardoned him for it. So these kind of grifts on the right wing are, a long-standing thing. Alex Jones selling vitamins, that just hustling stuff. But January 6th, is this? I'm assuming this is symptomatic of a larger grift within the GOP or within the right-wing movement, and also I'm wondering how Julie Jenkins Vancelli feels about it now that this story has come out. Does she feel exploited?
I don't think she hasn't said that. She took the fifth when she was called before the January 6th committee, and she has declined to comment substantively to reporters like me and other people since her role in the January 6th attack, or funding the rallies that led to the attack, was first exposed. I think that she ought to feel exploited, and it may be that people around her are trying to protect her from giving away her money in sort of questionable ways. However, she has continued to give money to various right-wing organizations, so there's really no sign that she's changed how she's giving away her fortune.
Yeah.
And, I think you mentioned Bannon. Roger Stone, I think, is a good example of someone. Roger Stone said he was raising money for security on January 6th. He raised, we found, about $42,000, really through one appearance on Alex Jones's InfoWars, and he just never spent it, it appears. So he said he was going to spend it on security. He didn't. And what exactly he did with that money is not clear, but he didn't spend it on security, so we can kind of reach some conclusions about what he was really up to there. And I also noted in there that the same billionaire, Julie Jenkins Fancelli, also paid for Stone later in 2021 to have extensive dental surgery, including getting a set of veneers, because she was just a fan of his, it seems.
Wow. Wow, this is absolutely remarkable. Does Ginny Thomas play into any of this? I know she was involved with one of the organizations that was busing people to the January 6th rally.
I did not get into Ginny Thomas's role specifically. I think that was that Tea Party Express. But all these organizations are. I think it's important to note many of these organizations are legally raising money from people, and they don't have a lot of restrictions on how they spend the money as long as it's sort of generally in the direction of what they say their organization is set up to do. Right. So I don't have any evidence that Ginny Thomas was involved in any particularly egregious or illegal grift. But you can make a pretty strong argument that, like, all of these organizations are at some level, when they're promoting lies that Trump is telling about the 2020 election, and they're telling people they can do something about it and just give us some money and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, that they are exploiting people, even if it's legal.
Did you uncover any evidence that either the funders or the grifters or the people who were the middlemen, were handling the money, that were helping, put together the January 6th, that they were looking at anything beyond just a simple rally where Donald Trump gives a speech, as opposed to, actually trying to overthrow the government, storm the Capitol, kill 5 people, kill 4 police officers, et cetera?
No, I did not, and I don't think they were. I don't think they were planning on an attack. I didn't write about people who sort of were planning for a rally that would result in attack on the Capitol. I think, again, these are people who saw an opportunity. They saw that this billionaire had put up $3 million, and that was sort of filtering out through different Republican organizations like Turning Point USA, Tea Party Express, this Republican Attorney General's organization, and they were making commissions off that money, and they were sort of figuring out ways to get paid from it. And many of these people, I talk about this guy named Taylor Budowich, who was a Donald Trump Jr. Buddy who wound up making close to $20,000 at least off the rally. He said pretty clearly in his deposition he didn't think that the election was stolen, or he made that clear. Mm-hmm. So these people were making money, and they it's not that they planned for an attack on the Capitol. They just helped create circumstances in which that happened, and they didn't really care what was happening. They were sort of taking care of number one. They probably thought Trump lost, and why not make some money off him before he leaves.
Amazing. The cynicism in the GOP is just breathtaking. Dan Friedman, senior reporter with the D.C. Bureau of Mother Jones, motherjones.com, dfriedman33 over on Twitter. Dan, thanks so much for dropping by and for writing this piece.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We take life back!
It's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program, and everybody else on Free Speech TV, it's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network, and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being, and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here. Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program, and we would like you to. I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that. And every 4 years, we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now. And becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle. Right? Join the Patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is. And I'm a real believer that we're going to be doing even better work as they
This is the
forward.
Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak. It is Friday. It's the end of the week, or the beginning of the weekend, as the case may be. We got a lot to talk about. We have one guest today in the second hour of our program, Svitlana Romanko. How will Ukraine be rebuilt? In the first hour, I want to get into microplastics and asbestos, the largest presidential grift in history. Our House Dems dropping the hammer on Trump and Kushner, and Trump is leaning hard on the Supreme Court, just like he did on Mike Pence. Will members of the Supreme Court get the Pence gallows next? Also, a new report finds half of recent U.S. inflation was due to corporate price gouging. Half of it. But of course, Biden gets blamed for it. And a crazy alert, Oklahoma Republicans file a bill to ban the very, very scary furries from school. Oh my God, we got to get them out of the schools. In the third hour of our program, Donald Trump wants no labels to run a candidate. This is starting to get dramatic, as in drama queen drama. It's pretty weird. And a geeky science, do multivitamins stave off dementia? Really? Seriously? Amazing story. But to start out, I wanted to talk about this amazing, Donald Trump leaning on the Supreme Court. This is not a small thing. This is not even remotely a small thing. You'll recall when Donald Trump leaned on Mike Pence ended up nearly dead. And, the people in the Supreme Court, they're not billionaires. They don't have, armed camps around their houses. They don't live in compounds and fortresses, although probably most of them live at least in gated communities. But who knows? I mean, they are just as vulnerable, and they have kids and everything else. I mean, some of them. They're just as vulnerable to being afraid of Donald Trump aiming his crazies at them as are people anywhere else. Jamie Dimon, for example, the CEO of, J.P. Morgan Chase, was at Davos a couple days ago. And he said, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, he did a great job as president. His tax policies were great. His jobs policies were great. His NATO stuff was great. Donald Trump wanted to take us out of NATO. His tax break has already cost us several $1 trillion. He added $7 trillion to the national debt. He had the worst job record since Herbert Hoover. Why is Jamie Dimon saying this? Because a couple of weeks ago, Jamie Dimon said something nice about Nikki Haley, who Donald Trump is now trashing with racist tropes. Have you noticed her skin is a little darker than yours, New Hampshire? Jamie Dimon said something nice about Nikki Haley, and so Donald Trump trashed Jamie Dimon. And so all of a sudden, Jamie Dimon is, oh no, we love Donald Trump. If he becomes president again, it's just fine with us. They're terrified. This is how dictators, this is how fascists work. They work with terror. They're terrorists. And I would argue that Donald Trump is promoting terror, and he loves it. He loved it on January 6th. He was watching TV with a big grin on his face, and he wants more of this. He was on Hannity yesterday, I believe it was, talking about how he has 3 justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, and the implication was they owe me. And the sub-implication of that was, and if they don't pay up what they owe me, trouble might happen. Let's talk about Paul Pelosi, you know? Somebody might just show up at one of their houses with a hammer. I don't know why the media is not treating this as a bigger story. I get it. The media, I mean, you know, MSNBC is running a promo right now that is, we've never had a presidential election like this where one of the parties is tied up with legal challenges. Legal challenges? He wants to end our friggin' democracy. And has said so. He said he wants to suspend the Constitution. He said he wants to be a dictator on day one. He said he wants Mark Milley in front of a firing squad. Among other things. But, oh no, he's got legal troubles. Really? Can't we just tell the truth about this guy? He's a neo-fascist wannabe dictator. It's that simple. It's incredible. It's just incredible. Meanwhile, the Republicans, you know, the Trump-humping Republicans, like James Comer, the guy from Kentucky who's the head of the House Oversight Committee, are continuing their lying and BS routine around the Biden family. Yesterday, they had a friend of Hunter Biden's, Kevin Morris, who came in for closed-door testimony. This is why Hunter Biden doesn't want to testify behind closed doors. He came in for closed-door testimony. He had loaned Hunter Biden a bunch of money, $5 million. And it's a loan. The lawyers drafted it. There's loan documents. He's paying interest. It's all perfectly legal, and it's got nothing to do with Joe Biden. And so after the closed-door hearing, Comer comes out and says, well, this is an effort to insulate then-presidential candidate Joe Biden from political liability. As if this guy had said that. He didn't. In a letter to the Oversight Committee obtained by the Huffington Post, Brian Sullivan, an attorney for Morris, took issue with Comer's characterization and demanded he release a full transcript of the interview. Quote, not 2 hours after we left Mr. Morris's transcribed interview, you issued a press statement with cherry-picked, out of context, and totally misleading descriptions of what Mr. Morris said. Everybody is afraid. You know, James Comer, he's terrified of Donald Trump. I am convinced that about half of these Republicans who support Trump are doing so because they really and truly are fascists. They want this country. They want Big Daddy. They're afraid of things that are happening, particularly the browning of America. But just in general, they probably still have PTSD from the COVID and everything else, and they're frightened little people. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis terrified of challenging Donald Trump. Everybody's afraid of Trump because they're afraid he'll turn his legions on them and they'll end up like Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman and E. Jean Carroll, having to spend a fortune on private security and looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, and every night not sleeping well, thinking, you know, maybe that guy with the hammer is going to break in tonight. This is nuts. Meanwhile, we've got the largest presidential grift in history. This is what Robert Garcia, the Democrat from California, the House of Representatives, yesterday called Donald Trump and Jared Kushner's raking in foreign cash. He said, we have records of 24 governments funneling millions of dollars into Trump properties and into Donald Trump's pockets while he was president, all in violation of the U.S. Constitution. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. He says, despite the attempted cover-ups, we can still prove that Trump and Jared Kushner were making national security decisions while he and his family were getting bribed and paid by the same foreign powers. You get this? I mean, this is how bad it is, right? He takes bribes in the White House, Donald Trump, and Jared Kushner. I mean, after Trump gets out of office, Jared Kushner, well, while he's still in office, Jared Kushner gets $1 billion from Qatar. And then after he gets out, he gets $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. And that's just like normal? Really? I mean, this isn't like, you know, Jimmy Carter's brother Billy with his Billy beer, which he was wildly criticized. Republicans were, you know, you got to be a certain age to remember this. This was in the 1970s, but Billy Carter came out with a beer called Billy Beer. And he was kind of an alcoholic ne'er-do-well, you know, Jimmy's brother, who's now passed away. And the Republicans were hysterical. Oh, my God, a member of the president's family is profiting off Jimmy Carter being in the White House? Ivanka and Jared made over $700 million while they worked in the White House. Trump made over $1 billion. This is nuts. And it's wrong. I mean, this is not how American politics is supposed to work. Anyhow, I got to tell you about microplastics after the break. This is just a shocking story. Microplastics, just like asbestos, can kill. So stay tuned. I'll be back with that. And your calls, of course, because it's Anything Goes Friday. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Robert in Roswell, New Mexico. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today?
I want to talk about presidential immunity.
Okay. Go for it.
Apparently, Mr. Trump feels that he's the only one qualified for that.
Yeah, this is what he's lobbying the Supreme Court about, you know, on Hannity's show last night.
If the Supreme Court says presidents have full immunity, what's to stop Biden from saying Donald Trump is a clear and present danger and take him out?
Yeah, SEAL Team 6, just call him up. This is the question I was asking, Robert, was when Trump first made this claim, why did the New York Times not run a headline that said, Trump invites Biden to assassinate him?
There you go.
Because essentially that's what he was saying. He was saying, you know, Joe Biden could take me out, and there's nothing anybody can do about it unless he gets impeached. And so, yeah,
right.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I think that's a very cogent analysis. Robert, thank you for that. Thank you very much. Jim in Las Vegas. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, Tom. How are you doing today?
Fine. It's still slippery as hell out there, but we're getting better.
Yeah, be careful. I want to say that I hope you and all the people in your life are having a great 2024 so far.
Yeah, knock wood.
But the thing I want to talk about is earlier in the week, I forget if it was Monday or Tuesday, I didn't get a chance to call in, but you said about how Sam Gravano, or what most people know him as Sammy the Bull, how he said that Trump is incorruptible.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but he not only has his own podcast, but he has his own YouTube channel.
Sammy the Bull?
Yes, Sammy the Bull Gravano has his own YouTube channel. I am subscribed to it.
I'm not surprised.
And I listened to him, and he was talking one time about how there was a hit that was put out on his cousin, and they made he and his crew take it out. However, he also went on in that podcast to talk about Trump and how when Trump was building Trump Tower, he used to hire crews from the Gambino family to bury toxic materials in upstate New York.
Really?
Just so that he didn't have to pay the exorbitant fee of having toxic materials disposed of.
Amazing.
So it's really funny to hear a man that was implicated in 19 murders that flipped on his boss so he didn't have to go to prison for the rest of his life, calling somebody that he knows is corrupt incorruptible.
Why is that not a major national news story that Trump was paying the mob to bury toxic waste up in New England so that he didn't have to pay the cost?
Well, honestly, I think it's because the podcast he did that on is only I think it's about 18 months old, and we've seen how the mainstream media has shifted away from telling the truth to literally covering for covering for MAGAs and Republicans.
Yeah.
We only have a few news sources that are truly honest, and you and Free Speech TV are one of them.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. And thanks for the information. I'm going to have to check this out. Jim, thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you, and I hope 2024 treats you and your family well, too. Thank you. We'll be right back. It's, 19 minutes, almost 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. From Los Angeles to Columbia, South Carolina, from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, universal basic income programs are chalking up proof after proof of their viability. Basically just giving people, low-income people, poor people, somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month, no strings attached, is lifting people out of poverty, getting them back on track, getting them into solid middle-class jobs, helping their children tremendously. This works. Now, we don't have to do UBI in the United States. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program. Health expenses are whacking a lot of low-income people. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have free college education. Education expenses are whacking people. There's a lot we could do. We can subsidize housing. We can subsidize food. We do that with food stamps. We could expand it. There's a lot we could do to benefit from this. There's a whole report about that over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. So the op-ed that I published over at Hartmann Report today is titled, it's all about how microplastics like asbestos can kill. In fact, that's the title. And you'll recall 6 months ago, back in August, I published a piece and I talked with you on this program about microplastics and how they were finding that an average bottle of bottled water can contain up to 10,000 particles of microplastics. Well, now they have looked at this with a new kind of microscopy, new kind of microscope, SRS, I think it's called, or SMS or whatever. It's a new, it's a more powerful microscope. And they got a bunch of samples, a bunch of bottles of water from Walmart and looked at them. And the number of particles that they were able to see, now we're not just talking microplastics, which are so small you can barely see them or you can't see them. We're talking nanoplastics, which are so small that you can't even see them with a normal microscope. You have to use a high-powered microscope. And the danger of nanoplastics is that they're so small they pass through all these barriers in your body and can even get into your brain. That they found that the bottles of water that they got at Walmart had between 170,000 particles of plastic in one bottle to over 400,000 in other bottles. I think I told you at the time when Louise and I got back from Antarctica that while we were there, we were on this cruise ship that was actually doing peer-reviewable science in the Antarctic and in Antarctica, and every single biological sample and water sample that they examined had microplastics in it. That was what they were doing on the ship. In fact, I published a photo that I took with my cell phone of a screen. They had one of these microscopes that has, that projects the image up on on a big TV monitor. And I just took a picture of it with my cell phone, and that's in the article today. And you can see these little tiny particles of microplastics, threads and little pieces and whatnot. And this is a problem because, like asbestos, microplastics can kill, mostly by causing cancer. And they do it two ways. The way asbestos causes cancer, which is what killed my father, mesothelioma, the way asbestos, because asbestos is quite neutral, it's inert, it's not biologically active. So how does it cause cancer? Well, it does it mechanically. It does it by constantly irritating tissues. That produces inflammation. Inflammation leads to cancer. Microplastics do the same thing, apparently in the gut, because there's so much microplastic, particularly in processed food. If you buy any kind of fast food, any kind of processed food, they're rich in microplastics. The processing practices contain plastic pipes and plastic tubes and plastic tubs, and there's just plastic everywhere. And so those plastic particles irritate the lining of the colon and open it up to exposure to gastric juices, acids and things, and also the contaminants in our food, and produce colon cancer or other, colorectal cancer. And we're having an explosion of this right now among young people. And the science is still inconclusive, but it looks like it has to do with microplastics. The second way that they kill, or they cause cancer, is the chemical load that they carry, particularly the plasticizers and some of the forever chemicals used in their manufacture. Because Europe uses the precautionary principle. They don't let these chemicals into their environment until they're proven safe. We use libertarianism. We allow the chemicals in, and then when people start dropping dead, then we try to ban them, and then industry steps in with lawsuits and lobbying and tries to keep them in the environment as long as they possibly can. This is what they did with asbestos. It's what they did with tobacco. It's what they're doing now with microplastics. A new study that was just published in Environmental Health Perspectives found over 900 chemicals, most associated with plastics, currently in the U.S. food supply with the potential to cause breast cancer. 278 of them directly cause breast tumors in animals. 642 disrupt or imitate sex hormones and thus are implicated in these hormone-related cancers. So what do we do about this? Well, Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats back in 2021 passed a bill that would have subjected these cancer-causing, often toxic chemicals to regulatory oversight. It died in the Senate in the face of a Republican filibuster. Last March, the EPA determined there is basically no safe level of exposure for these forever family of chemicals, no matter how small. Republicans blocked any effort to regulate the substances. And red state after red state have passed, 12 states now have passed laws banning towns and counties from banning plastic bags. In other words, you will have plastic whether you want it or not, because we, the fossil fuel industry, which is what plastic is made out of, and we, the plastics industry, own politicians, thanks to Clarence Thomas and his Republican buddies on the Supreme Court and Citizens United. And that's where we're at. We've got these microplastics and these chemicals in our food supply, and they are killing us. In fact, the last estimate is that they are costing America a quarter of $1 trillion a year in lost productivity and health expenses, just from microplastics. It's breathtaking. But the Republicans are united in their opposition to doing anything about it. I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. It's Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So what's on your mind? I'll be right back with your calls. Stay tuned. Hey, it's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program, and everybody else on Free Speech TV, it's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first month, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here. Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And, of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program. And we would like you to, I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that, and every 4 years we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now. Becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the patriots here. Doing great work Free Speech TV is, and I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Back 34 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Friday. George in Long Beach. Hey, George, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tom. I've got a joke for you, but before that, I've got a little disagreement with something you said at the very beginning of the program.
Okay.
Yeah, you said TGIF. I'd rather think a union member. God's a proponent of the 6-day work week.
Ah, okay. Good one, George.
And the joke that I called in with was, how many Republicans does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know.
What light bulb? Republicans use gaslighting.
Okay, that's a good one. All righty. Well, George, thank you. Thank you very much for your Friday morning contribution. I appreciate it. Russ in Hickory Hill, Illinois. Hey, Russ, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, Tom. I called because I seen some stuff this week on TV. If Biden wins, he's just got to cut these guys' knees off. I don't know if you caught this video of this guy who wants to be the AG for the Republicans about talking about, I ain't going to put Biden in a prison. I'm going to put him in a dog cage. I'm going to put his whole family in a dog cage. They don't like it too bad because that's what they need.
Whoa.
I mean, Tom, this talk is just starting to get – Biden's got to retaliate. You know what he does? He puts all these guys in jail. I mean, Michael Steele, I thought he's supposed to be this liberal. I thought they had to put a seatbelt on him. Oh, Nikki Haley, 5347. I mean, these guys.
Michael Steele is the former chairman of the Republican Party. He's a Republican.
Right, and he's still getting giddy about the 66.
Oh, I know. He's even got his own show on MSNBC now, and and he wants to privatize Social Security and privatize Medicare and all the other Republican stuff.
But Tom, this talk like put him in a dog cage. We're not going to feed him. In fact, some of them say
who said that?
Dog cage might be too good. Some right winger on some far right station, they were playing this guy. It got out on TV, Tom, and he wants to be the new Garland. Garland, you got to get rid of Garland. You got to put a guy that says, I hate Republicans. First, you get rid of Thomas's wife, then you go after Roberts.
Yes and no.
And then you go after this whole family.
I would like to see a more aggressive Justice Department with regard to the crimes against our democracy. And, diddling around for 2 years was insane. But I also don't want to see a politicized Justice Department. I think that Biden keeping it at arm's length is wise.
Is that a crime?
Is what a crime?
Put them in a dog cage?
No, it's not a crime.
We won't feed them?
No, that's free speech in America.
I mean, this guy was the far right station that it got out on TV. I'm surprised you even heard about it.
Yeah,
but,
I haven't.
A lot of people are thinking, Tom, that this is it. Like John Fugu saying, and all these guys that go on Steph's show, that this party could go the way of the Whigs. Because who do they got in 2028?
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear that we won in Orlando? Big time, and we're all spent 2-1 for a House seat.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, Russ. It's going to be a wild year.
You ain't heard this guy?
The billionaires have not weighed in yet, and they're going to. I mean, you had Jamie Dimon in Davos saying, he's just fine with Donald Trump. It's like that. And Jamie Dimon used to be, Bill Clinton's good buddy and all this kind of stuff. It's like, really? Russ, I got to move along, but points well made. Thank you very much. Chris in Littleton, Colorado. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hello, Tom. I just wanted to say the climate will pass the 1.5 degree Celsius of global warming this year, according to James Hansen, the top NASA scientist.
Right.
And 1.5 degrees centigrade or Celsius of global warming is the gateway to severe, irreversible climate disaster, according to the International Panel on Climate Change.
That's correct.
And we must triple renewable energy and drastically reduce fossil fuels. That's the recommendation of the COP28 World Meeting. And yet, we are still increasing fossil fuels worldwide every single year, including 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this not an emergency? If we simply stopped fossil fuels and went to renewable energy, the climate would slowly return to normal, only, a lot less polluted.
Yeah, over time. Although I think we're going to have to really look at decarbonizing technologies. Although, as you point out, nature is the ultimate decarbonizer. Lots and lots of green stuff. But we keep replacing green stuff with pavement. So, to paraphrase Joni Mitchell. And
the results of not eliminating fossil fuels right now are really severe.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about melting of the Arctic tundra, releasing huge amounts of methane into the atmosphere that could cause a feedback loop to spiral everything out of control.
Yep. 10 million tons of fresh water melting out of Greenland every hour.
Yeah, and if melting of the Greenland and the Arctic ice sheets raising sea levels 14 feet and drowning most islands and coastal cities.
Yep. And which is where the majority of the human population lives, is on coasts. Yeah. No, we're looking at some really, really serious consequences, Chris. And again, the GOP refuses to even acknowledge that this is a problem, much less do anything about it. They block every effort. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders wanted to put $6 trillion into this. And, Congress got them, Republicans in Congress forced them to whittle it down to 2. But, it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. Chris, I need to move along, but your points are very well taken. Thank you. Ken in Elkton, Maryland. Hey, Ken, what's on your mind today?
Hey, man, been talking about so many different things, but like this environmental. Have you ever heard of this line structure building in Saudi Arabia?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there's this. It's not a skyscraper. It's going to be 170. I guess it's under construction now. 170 kilometers long, 500 meters high. It's all self-contained complex with food and everybody's going to live together and so forth, so on. No emissions. I mean,
so is this their answer to the world becoming uninhabitable? I mean, parts of Saudi Arabia are going to be so hot.
Well, you could build one. You could build one anywhere in the world, but it seems to me, if you Google it, it'll pop right up and you can check it out. It seems to me like a very, very, very good idea as far as getting rid of pollution and, all the plastic. It would just be a start. And you could build one across, out in our deserts stretching, for so many miles. And it's a self-contained unit thing, a whole thing.
Yeah.
And it would just seems like it would help out with so much. You got to really look at it and read about it a little bit. I'm not really good at explaining everything about it because I haven't really read that much. But it's
interesting stuff.
Something that we could do. The kids, because I'm 62. We're going to be gone. And as far as plastics everywhere and air, you can't breathe everywhere. The ocean. All the fish. I'm an outdoorsman, or at least I used to be. I've been driving a truck now for 30 years. But if something's not done, like Mother Nature will go on.
Yeah.
She will go on and she'll shake us off.
Although she's badly wounded right now. I mean, they're finding microplastics in penguin chicks.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. This line thing, maybe on break, you could just pop it up and you'll see exactly what it's.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Ken, thanks for the information. That's fascinating. I appreciate it. Jeff at Fort Dodge, Iowa. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom. Well, we saw the silliness again of the Iowa caucuses. Here we have normal Iowa weather. We had minus 25 to minus 30 degree below zero wind chills the night of the caucus. We watched for a year and a half how many millions of dollars were spent on Republican ads, probably for a good year and a half. It would be very interesting to know how much per person that each vote, what that cost. We had Fox News is showing on the Chiron the blowout win Trump has for the Iowa caucuses. There were only 14% of the Republicans, because of the weather, that even showed up. And if he got 51%, that means 7% of the Iowa Republicans voted for Trump.
Right.
So it looks to me it'd be how many tens of $1,000s per vote that it cost Iowa. And this is normal Iowa weather. This is what we have in January and February.
Right.
And, you know, it just eliminates so many people, seniors and people with health issues, people that work all day, sure don't want to get home and then go out when it's 25 below zero.
Right.
At 7 o'clock on a, election or caucus night.
Yeah.
And it always was a joke, and you can kind of see why the Democrats kind of just strayed away from the Iowa caucuses. And personally, it just eliminates so many people access.
Yeah.
And we had 2 snowstorms besides before that minus 20, 25 degree. It's 17 below here in Fort Dodge right now, wind chill.
Wow.
So, but this is Iowa. This is what normal happens, and to have a caucus at this time of year in a state like this, where the wind always blows, it pretty much eliminates a whole lot of people.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what the Republicans like about it. I don't know, but that's
maybe it is. That's why. Maybe that's why Iowa is all turned all red and Republican.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you. Thank you for the call, and thanks for the report from Iowa itself. I appreciate it. It's 45 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Friday. Picking up your call, or weekend, picking up your calls here. We'll be right back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's Talk Media for the sane among us. Yes, we are still here.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Don't know if you caught it, but Netanyahu says no way, no two-state solution. This guy is committed to having a war to keep himself out of jail. And welcome back. Donald in Gilroy, California. Hey, Donald, what's on your mind today?
Well, I lived in Gilroy all my life. I'm 82, and Steve Garvey is someone I knew about because I was a San Francisco Giant fan, and he was a real good Dodger fan, Dodger player, first baseman. And the San Jose Mercury here in Gilroy, in San Jose, has an article about him running, and he's in second place in polls behind Adam Schiff in the polls, 2 polls, and he's trying to be a Republican candidate as a second place in the finish for March primary. And
that's right. You guys have the top 2 primary, don't you?
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I said that's right. I just remembered that California has a top 2 primary. You're not going to have a Republican and a Democratic primary. It's all kind of run together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it is. And he is running second to Adam Schiff, and he listens to both sides. He talked to Hilmes in Sacramento, the state capital. He says that he talked to one person, they need food, housing, and he listens to both sides.
So he's running as a Schwarzenegger Republican, basically.
Yes, he was got in when they recalled the Davis in 2000, early 2000. Schwarzenegger was the right candidate to be governor of California, and that's the last big position any Republican held in California. Yeah. I sure hope that Steve can be a second place candidate and debate.
I get it. Donald, I need to move along, but Steve Garvey, okay, thanks for putting that on my radar screen. I'll keep an eye on it. Thank you very much. Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. Hey, Norma, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Tom.
Hey.
I just wanted to put in my 2 cents about Trump.
Mm-hmm.
This psychological war that he is running across the country, that as Trump, the name Trump should do this and Trump should do that, and Trump should be able to do anything that Trump wants to do. He can be, has anybody thought about what would happen if he becomes a dictator here and he decides that, oh, well, I'm going to take that whole neighborhood out and put in a new golf course.
Right.
As a dictator, he could do anything he wanted to. And this, my son supports him, and he thinks that he is wonderful, that he can do no wrong. This is what Trump is teaching our population, that he is wonderful, and he's going to be a wonderful president, and he's going to be fantastic and brilliant, and it's going to be perfect and bigly. And I don't know how to get through to these people, trying to explain to them that we do not want a person in charge of our country who can do anything and everything he wants because he is Trump, as you would say Putin or Xi or Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
You can't let something like this happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going out again with my no one's above the law bag, and hopefully nobody will shove me into a wall today.
Somebody shoved you into a wall?
Yeah, more than once.
Oh, my.
These white men, Republican, Southern, misogynistic people think that I should shut up and come home and sit down.
I get it.
And sorry, I was born free.
Yeah. There you go. I know. Norma, thank you, and good luck. I wish you the very best. You're often in my thoughts. Thank you, Norma, for the call. Wow. 10 minutes before the hour, 50 minutes after. We'll be right back with more of your calls in 60 seconds. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had a piano, and I loved to play it. I was incompetent, but I was figuring out all kinds of stuff. And then I kind of got away from it and, went to school and things got busy and just lost track of it. Well, now there's this fascinating new study out of the University of Geneva, Switzerland, that is making me think maybe I should go back and learn the piano. What they found was that they took a group of 132 healthy older adults, retired, 62 to 78 years old. Half of them learned the piano, half of them took music classes without learning the piano. And what they found was that those who learned the piano actually had the strongest increase in their memory, in their mental competence, their mental faculties. Those who took the music classes also did well, but learning the piano was a huge step. So check it out. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 9 minutes before the hour, Alfredo in Mountain View, California. Hey, Alfredo, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Regarding inflation, Tom, I think the Biden administration has a problem here, and here in California, I am feeling it as well. The problem is the purchasing power of the consumer, what that really is. We have two classes of consumers. You have the very wealthy consumer, and then you have the medium and lower class consumers. Now, I'm going to the store, and I'm paying $8 for a loaf of bread, $3 for a tomato, over $5 a gallon of gasoline. We are not feeling it. And, so when they say that the inflation is coming down, where? Look at the prices of housing, renting. Yeah. Look at the prices of flying. If they can tell me specifically where inflation is down, I don't see it. Yeah. And so I wanted to hear your comments on this.
Well, I'm gonna give you a little more extensive rant about this in about 15 minutes. It looks like at least half of all the inflation the United States has experienced since the pandemic is the result of large corporations that act as cartels or that have so much market power that they have essentially no competition. simply jacking up prices because they can do it. And
Yeah,
their CEOs
yeah.
are bragging about it in their stockholder calls.
That was my next point. They are gouging consumers everywhere.
Yeah.
And so the real purchasing power of the consumer is down. Yeah. We don't have inflation is really affecting everybody, or gouging, I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you,
no,
Tom.
I get it. Yeah, thank you, Alfredo. Well, like I said, we'll talk about that in about 15 minutes. Bill in Clifton, New Jersey. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hey, Tom. I'm still, my head's spinning about this dark labels party,
no
whatever
labels
they
thing?
are.
The dark money group? Yeah.
Yeah, I call them dark labels. But anyway, they're all over 70, so I don't know about the age thing. There were some people on TV earlier who were saying they don't want to change the election. If it looks like Biden is losing, they're going to correct for that. If it looks like whoever it is, Trump is, they're going to correct for it.
It's a grift. It's a grift. These guys, they're a bunch of boomers who were political consultants who got kicked out of the Clinton camp. And so they're looking for a way to make some, in my opinion, they're looking for a way to make some money. And, they've raised, I think, $70 million for this. I guarantee you they're paying themselves some pretty good salaries or taking some pretty good commissions.
But as far as the assault weapons problem, I think the only way to solve it is for the military to change the M16s and make the barrels narrower and change the ammunition size and make what the old ammunition they used to use illegal or not made anymore. And when that runs out, the people who have the old guns are not going to be able to use them.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to get that level of government intervention in the firearms marketplace, Bill. I think we just need to ban semi-automatic weapons. Period. And limit them, or at the very least limit them, the way we do fully automatic weapons. People can still get them. Bill, thank you for the call. Gus in Austin, Texas. Hey, Gus, what's on your mind today?
Well,
to ban semi-automatic weapons.
Let's see. I've got the TV on. Let me turn it down.
Thank you. Good idea.
I'm really afraid to say my rant because, I don't know. I might get in trouble for telling the truth. But I told the interviewer that you don't have to go to North Korea. All you got to do is go to South Texas on the border. You see the same thing you see in North Korea, razor wire, goons running up and down the border. And I asked him, how come nobody ever says how much the total cost of what's going on at the border is told to the American people? How many billions of dollars have we spent? And how many billions of dollars we spent on ICE and the DEA?
Yeah.
That they're the cause of the drug cartels.
Well, on the one hand. On the other hand, you do have to protect your borders. I mean, that's an obligation of every country.
Well, how about making the United States expand it to Mexico and Central America? We should have the United States by now, North.
I think the Mexicans would have something to say about that, but I get your concern, Gus. And yeah, it does look like North Korea down there. All we're missing is the DMZ. I guess that's the Rio Grande River. Gus, thanks for the call, and thanks for watching us there in Austin, Texas on Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. 10 Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We take life back!
It's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program, and everybody else on Free Speech TV, it's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network, and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being, and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here. Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program. And we would like you to, I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that, and every 4 years we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now and becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is, and I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. On the line with us is Svitlana Romanko, the founder and director of Razom We Stand, R-A-Z-O-M, We Stand, a Ukrainian organization calling for the permanent embargo on Russian fossil fuels, RAZOMWESTAND.org/EN for the English version. And Svitlana, welcome to the program. I'm so pleased to have you with us. You're speaking about the need to deal with the economics around Russia's brutal attack on your country and what's going to happen afterwards. Where do we start with this?
Oh, thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me. And I think we have to start from how we formed as an independent Ukrainian movement dedicated to the defense and liberation of our country and the permanent defeat of Russian aggression and a clean energy future for the Ukraine and the world. So at the very beginning of the war, just bringing a bit of personal story of why I'm here and why I am. For the second year, I am tirelessly fighting with many allies and volunteers and partners. We are fighting Russia's war machine and Putin's war machine. So we started exactly on the very day of when the war began, and literally under bombing of our cities, under these first explosions, we were able, with colleagues from the movement, not just think of what will happen to our families, what will happen to our children as the war rages on, but we were able to stay calm and organize for absolutely fully banning Russian fossil fuels. and from the world market, and also catalyzing the clean energy revolution in Ukraine and globally, because we are very determined as a movement that being supported with 80 or almost 900 organizations from 60 countries of the world, truly global and truly global Stand With Ukraine campaign. We are very much dedicated to fight and defeat Putin's war of aggression and then build a better, greener future for all. And just to bring one important point, because we know what's happening around us and the conflicts are raging on and shaking the planet. So I just wanted to say that we must stand together, Americans and Ukrainians, in the face of these fossil fuel dictatorships that invades not just our country, but also incites hostilities in other parts of the world, and support each other. And that's the only way to keep our countries free and safe for democracy.
Agreed, and brilliantly stated. Tell us about Razom, R-A-Z-O-M, razomwestand.org, your website. It's a word that I think most Americans are unfamiliar with.
Yes, this is a Ukrainian word because it means together, and it connects to the campaign that we started with many activists from all over the world, which is called Stand With Ukraine campaign. And we just wanted to iterate that we are standing together and we will withstand and we will win Russian aggression. We will fight dictatorship and bring peace and democracy back to Ukraine and beyond its borders.
To what extent is the Ukrainian infrastructure, both political and physical, damaged? I mean, if this war were to end soon, what kind of rebuilding are you looking at? What are the dimensions of the crisis that Ukraine is and will be facing?
It's such an important question, because I just wanted to warn first our friends Americans, whom we are deeply grateful for all their support, that please think carefully whom you bring to the presidency this November, because our Ukraine independence and sovereignty very much rely on this too. So, and our clean revolution is not possible without many countries stepping in, the US included. So how we envision this? Yes, indeed, energy infrastructure has been hugely damaged and destroyed by 45%, as estimates say. But, and we had total blackout last winter, and we came to have power supply only 2 hours per day for some time. And can you imagine how it's quite difficult to work, to maintain a household when you just have power supply 2 hours per day? But we were able to withstand that winter, and this winter we are very much prepared. So I suggest we start from the policies, because policies bring the most of impact. So we campaign on the highest levels to bring the renewable energy policies in, and actually our political establishment is quite supportive of this message. And we just need to replace all damaged and destroyed coal power units with renewable capacity as a starting point. And it can create, by the way, 500,000 of green jobs by 2030 only. And in general, it was astonishing when we researched this, and what actually benefit will be for people, for ordinary Ukrainians who suffer, who were forced to flee Ukraine. And there are certain millions of people. Some of them just came back, and how we think of our people. And actually, we found out that almost 4 million of jobs, 4.5, that have been destroyed with the war, including in energy infrastructure, could be restored and replaced with the green jobs if there are respectful state policies in place. So it's really a call for I believe for us Ukrainians, not just withstand the Russian fossil fuel dictatorship, which is violent, which does not have to exist in the modern world of democracy, and it won't. And we just need to start from policies to attract investments, to win the war and rebuild in green. So And we are not just thinking about Ukraine, though, because the other parts of the world are also suffering from aggression, which sometimes Russians are backing up. So we are just thinking about the global energy transition, which must and will revolutionize the energy infrastructure for many parts of the planet.
We're talking with Svitlana Romanko, who is the founder and director of Razom We Stand, RAZOMWESTAND.org. And wow. Svitlana, one of the biggest challenges that we face here in the United States is Russian propaganda mostly being funneled through social media sites, you know, Twitter, Facebook, that kind of thing. It's gotten so bad that we've also got the problem of Putin having told Donald Trump to cut Ukraine loose. And so now Trump is telling all the Republicans, don't vote for any aid to Ukraine. And they've stalled it now for months, actually. How in Ukraine, how under attack are you guys from Russian propaganda via social media and other outlets? And how do you deal with it? And do you have any advice for us?
Yes, we do. And first advice is just stay strong and please just be mindful of whom you vote to your government, to presidency, because it's very much interconnected. The freedom of speech that we used to have normally speak freely in a democratic country. And so far we understand that it can be a kind of luxury that not many people have in this modern world. And Americans must protect the democracy they lead for the modern world. And of course, support Ukraine in this way to rebuilding, because we also are looking for some mid-term and long-term support with this clean energy revolution, being actually mentioning the remarkable Inflation Reduction Act, which foresees lots of investments in green energy and clean energy. But at the same time, I wanted to bring another point, because we just recently published op-ed with my friend Bill McKibben and also with Louisa Neubauer from Germany, discussing a very important point that U.S. suddenly became the main gas producer in the world and the main fossil fuel producer. So we foresee a huge threat of these resources being used just to provoke more dictatorship, aggression in the world, as fossil fuels normally do, because that's the root cause of the climate crisis, energy crisis, and also crisis of peace. So we would suggest the U.S. Just limits the fossil fuel use and eliminates fossil fuel dependency, just to stop not just Putin's war machine, but also to stop another war machines that are ready to launch across the world. And we see the world is quite unstable and attacked by military conflicts. How we stand, however, we are hopeful for the international solidarity and for a democratic actions. Thanks.
Yep. Svitlana Romanko, the founder and director of Razom, RAZOM, WeStand.org. Svitlana, thanks so much for dropping by today and for the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Tom. It was a pleasure to be here. And,
thank you. Great talking with you. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls after this. It's Anything Goes Friday. And welcome back. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, Keno, what's up?
Oh, Tom, I've got good news. Number one, let's start calling your program Happy Frida's Day. So the Scandinavian ideal's got to be promoted. So let's stop saying Friday and start saying Frida's Day.
Is that where the word Friday came from?
Yeah, Frida, the goddess, the love goddess in Scandinavia, man.
Yeah, no, I know who it is.
Your background, and you don't remember that, or you just?
No, I do. I just didn't. I didn't know that Friday was named after a Scandinavian god. I thought most of our days came from Greek or Roman. But you know, what do I know?
It's not Scandinavian love goddess, man.
Okay, Keno.
Now, look, okay, Tom, your program is going to be a program to honor strong women on Frida's Day. You just honored Svitlana. You have your cast of colorful character callers. Solomon said, in a multitude of counselors, there's safety. And so safety is being developed on your network on this Happy Frida's Day. So quit saying Friday. Everybody quit saying Friday that are joining in for the Scandinavian ideal. You know, there's a wonderful book, The Nordic Theory of Everything, by Anu Partanen, the Finnish woman, who says we in America could adopt Scandinavia's programs for health and education and be more civilized people. So St. Frida's Day, a saint, now that's Catholic. That's mixing it in. She was not a saint. She was a love goddess. Anyway, Tom, we got to call for a certain book. If you know if it's in existence, we call it forth to study it now. And if it's not in existence, we got to call it into existence. That is a book. Now, there's that Bandy Lee professor at Harvard got a collection of 27 psychologists and psychologists
it was Yale, but
analyze Trump. Yes. We need a 27 psychiatrists to analyze the minds of the supporters of Trump. We need to understand them. There needs to be a book if it doesn't already exist. Do you know if one already exists? Or if it doesn't, how can I help get one that's a book of at least 27 explanations from 27 different people? You have your ideas about a lot of them being racist. Well, now, Norma, we got to pray for a guardian angel to come from Norma. She's doing the work of God in Alabama. Yeah. And so, but a guardian angel come forth to protect her. But for strong women, and we got to be aware that, and now Ziggy, he's going to make a bumper sticker that carries us into Frida's paradise, Scandinavian ideal.
Okay.
The Nordic theory of everything. It was about a 2016 book, got overlooked, but it sets up the ideal. As Gunnar, the guy on Morning Joe says, we got to have a beautiful tomorrow.
Yeah,
we can have
I like
a beautiful
that.
Tomorrow.
So, Kino, I don't know of any books that specifically address the psychology of Trump's supporters. And I agree with you that there is a need for one. And there probably are books out there that do, and I just am unaware of them. But frankly, I think that, some of them are just plain old racist and they're responding to his dog whistle. But I think a lot of them are just people who are misinformed. They listen to right-wing hate radio. They watch Fox so-called news. And they believe this stuff.
Okay, now, Tom, you have defined a certain segment. Norma talked about her son. Yeah. I've got a sister and a brother. They're good people. We need to. So there's different reasons why people are in this cult of Trump. But we got to, with understanding. We got to have understanding, and there needs to be a book, and let it come forth, and let's get it started. You help me some way get that book. Bandy Lee from Harvard, was she pulled together?
She's from Yale, but I'll look into it. Kino, thank you for the call. Great suggestion. Great suggestion. It's 20 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of the news and your calls right after this. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government and military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This is the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor. This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 22 minutes past the hour. Half of recent U.S. inflation due to high corporate profits. This is a new report from the Groundwork Collaborative. They found that corporate profits account for 53% of inflation during last year's second and third quarters. Profits drove 11% of the price growth in the 40 years prior to the pandemic. Prices for consumers rose 3.4% over the past year, but input costs were only up 1%. So companies, their actual cost to do business goes up 1%, so they charge you 3.4% more. They call this greedflation. The report's authors scoured corporate earnings calls and found executives bragging to shareholders, writes Tom Perkins over at The Guardian, about keeping prices high and widening profit margins as input costs come down. They were exploiting cost shocks, the Ukraine war, and coordinating price hikes. This is one of the Weber, this, I don't have her first, Liz Weber. It says, this is a form of implicit collusion. Firms do not even need to talk to one another to know that a cost shock is a great time to raise prices. But when costs fall, price-setting firms do not have any incentive to decrease prices because, there's basically no competition anymore. In 1983, Ronald Reagan formally stopped enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act and the Clayton Antitrust Act and the Antitrust Act of 1956, all of our antitrust laws, saying, hey, what's wrong with big corporations, right? And so now, as a result, in every industry, no matter what it is, pick an industry, there are fewer than 5 companies that dominate more than 80% of virtually every industry in America, and they have complete control over pricing. They act as cartels. Workers aren't faring as well. Corporate profits as a share of national income are up by 29%. Workers' share of corporate earnings is still down from pre-pandemic levels. In France, the government actually gets involved in this kind of thing. They, for example, the French government banned a supermarket chain from carrying Pepsi products because they jacked the prices up too high. I'm not in favor of doing that, frankly. I'm not that whatever you call that. Not that much of a fan of Marxist economics. But I do believe that the government should be breaking up these big companies so that we can have competition once again, because competition is the main thing that drives prices down. And what Reagan did was destroy competition. So here we go. And finally, I have a crazy alert for you, and then I'll pick up your calls here on Anything Goes Friday. This Republican from Oklahoma, Justin Humphrey, just filed a new bill, HB 3084, in the Oklahoma legislature that targets, quote, students who purport to be an imaginary animal or animal species or who engage in anthropomorphic behavior commonly referred to as furries. Yes, he's very concerned about furries and their litter boxes in our schools. This, of course, is a myth that was made up. It was originally an effort to punk right-wingers. Hey, let's see if these people are stupid enough to believe this. Lauren Boebert believed it and went off on rants about it on social media. Oh, kids are using kitty litter boxes in school. This is how crazy the liberals have gotten, those stupid teachers. Yeah, it's a lie. There's literally nothing to it. But Humphrey explained to Rolling Stone, why are we going to bring in a litter box and put it in a room? Why are they allowing these kids to actually use litter boxes? This is the same guy, by the way, who in 2014 authored a piece of legislation that would force women seeking an abortion to be, quote, required to provide in writing the identity of the father of the fetus, and the abortion can only be performed with the written consent of said father. Right. And back in 2021, this guy sponsored a bill demanding Oklahoma's Wildlife Conservation Commission establish an official hunting season for, wait for it, Bigfoot. Yeah. This is what you get when you elect Republicans. I'm telling you, this is what oh my God, we've got furries. They've got kitty litter boxes in our classrooms. Didn't you know? And we've got to have a Bigfoot hunting season, complete with permits. He wanted the state of Oklahoma to issue hunting permits for Bigfoot. Arguably that's not as crazy as thinking that kids have kitty litter boxes in school and that it's such a crisis that it needs a legislative remedy. But it's up there. Incredible. All right, it's Anything Goes Friday. I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. 27 minutes past the hour. Stay with us. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the water cooler wars. We'll be right back on the other side of this break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truths the Republican legislators would really rather you didn't know. I'll be right back with your calls. Hey, it's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program and everybody else on Free Speech TV. It's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here, Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, you know, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, you know, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And, of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program. And we would like you to, I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the, you know, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, you know, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that, and every 4 years we have a really hard time raising money. as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, you know, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, well, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, you know, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now. And becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the Patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is. And I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, if you like the rants that I open the show with every day, they're typically published over at hartmannreport.com. Check it out. So back in 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt became president, we were in the depths of the Great Depression. He raised the top income tax rate on billionaires from 25% to 90%. The ultra-rich were screaming, and here's what he had to say.
A number of my friends who belong in the very high upper bracket have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am re-elected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here. Now, I will miss them very much.
He just took it right to them, right? Now, what came out of that was the world's largest and fastest growing and first major middle class. We can do this again. We just have to raise taxes on rich people. It's pretty straightforward. There's a whole article about it over at hartmannreport.com. Check it out. Well, welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Lynn in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hey, Lynn, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I got to talk about the Hunter Biden. I heard reporting yesterday that he has agreed to a closed-doors deposition next week. And I was wondering, you know, just this week, the Kevin Morris, I believe he's the guy that showed up in court with in the Congress the other day with him, the businessman from California that loaned him money.
Yeah.
He had a closed-door deposition this week.
Yeah, it was
immediately
yesterday.
Immediately after James Comer went out and put out a statement or with his summary of the deposition. And, of course, it aligned with all the Republican narrative about the corruption. Well, this morning, on Politico, there's a letter that's been posted from Kevin Morris's lawyer that went bullet point by bullet point by bullet point by bullet point what James Comer said and what was actually said. What James Comer said, what was actually said about all the misrepresentations. And, of course, Comer's saying, well, we'll release the transcript soon. Whatever. Right. So I don't understand why Hunter Biden would agree to do the closed door when he know.
Yeah, every time Comer has a closed door hearing, he comes out and lies about what was said. I mean, it's well documented. It's pretty breathtaking. I hit the audacity of this guy.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand. You know, I was hoping that it wasn't true. Of course, it was on mainstream media that I heard it on. So I was hoping it wasn't true that Hunter Biden has agreed to do that. I
understand he's agreed to testify. I'm going to have to find an article on it because I saw the headline yesterday, but I didn't read the article. Has he agreed to testify behind closed doors, or have they agreed to go along with public testimony?
That's what was reported yesterday. I don't know. I don't remember what station it was on or what. Yeah. It wasn't on Twitter, but it was. He's agreed to close next week. It said. Yeah. And then this other thing, but over on Politico, they got this letter posted that the lawyer sent to James Comer. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. You know, it's like I didn't know if you'd heard about the Hunter Biden the closed door thing.
Oh yeah, I
or
had.
Even if
you know, Comer's looking more and more like not just a fool, like a propagandist. This is like old Soviet-style stuff. It's like the old Star Chamber. In fact, going way back before the Soviet Union. It's just, and it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Lynn, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, and thanks for the call. Stephen in Birmingham, Pennsylvania. Hey, Stephen, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for taking my call. My current concern, and hopefully will not turn into a concrete fear, is that if Trump wins the election, there's going to be protests and violence. If Trump loses the election, there's going to be protests and violence. It has me quite concerned, and I hope it's unfounded, but what do you think?
I think that when Trump loses, because there's no doubt in my mind he's going to lose. He lost the first election by 3 million votes. He lost the second election by 7 million votes. This one's probably going to be even worse. But I think when he loses, he's going to do his best to try to stir up violence. But I think because the Justice Department has thrown about 1,000 people in jail now around January 6th, that it's probably not going to go anywhere. You might see some stochastic terrorism, which Trump is, constantly trying to stir up, lone wolves, the let's go hit Paul Pelosi with a hammer kind of guys. You will see some of that, I'm sure. But I think America is over it. I really do. And I think the media is exaggerating the power that Donald Trump has on this little fraction of what's left of the Republican Party.
Good. Yeah, thank you. I need that reassurance. I find you to be a voice of reason.
And we're seeing this around the world, by the way. When Bolsonaro lost his election, he tried to overthrow the government overthrow the election. And not only did the government crack down, they immediately banned him from ever holding public office, and they tried to arrest him. He fled to Mar-a-Lago. And then in Poland, when Duda's guy lost the election, and now they've got a new prime minister. This guy Donald Tusk is his name, and he's bringing democracy back to Poland. I think the rest of the world is starting to figure out that fascism really isn't the road they want to go down. And we've sadly got this rump faction within the GOP that is heavily supported by American media moguls and big bankers like Jamie Dimon, but in my opinion, they are a shrinking piece of the American electorate. Stephen, thank you for the call. Patsy in Arroyo Grande, California. Hey, Patsy, what's on your mind today?
You're a little plastic. I've been a hater of plastic for about the last 30 years, but now I've hopped onto this new thing, which is also a petroleum product, which is polyester. And the reason I ran across this is I found out I'm allergic to polyester. I don't know if my old age, my skin is getting thin, but it gives me the itchies. So I went on this little quest to try to replace my wardrobe with, natural fibers, and I find out, I don't care where you go, are mostly 90% polyester cloth.
Wow.
Now, I believe if polyester acts like plastic, it too can biodegrade into the ground and into our water supply and into our food supply, although nobody's done a study on it, and I hope they do. So I kind of wanted to put that on your radar.
Yeah, the polyester fabric, or fibers rather, the picture that I published in my newsletter today has got a couple of little blue fibers in it, and I believe that that's polyester. They're probably from fishing nets, but it's one of the more common forms of microplastic pollution that they're finding in the oceans around Antarctica and all around the world, frankly. So yeah, this is a real thing, Patsy. It's a real thing. Thank you very much for sharing. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
The Fed interest rates right now they're at 5.5%. When George W. Bush was president, when George W. Bush was president, at 5.25, and then you look at Bill Clinton when it hit 6%. And 6.5%, and also 5.5%. All those are in the range of where the economy was crashing and headed for recession. And the Fed currently is trying to keep us in that danger zone, so that if a black swan event were to take place, you could see the economy crash rather quickly. And they're trying to keep us there right up into the election. Bostic, one of the Fed chair, one of the Federal Reserve guys that's in charge of setting rates, he's saying that he's going to try to keep it at 5.5 until the fourth quarter of this year.
Right.
And
until the election.
We're current. That's right, before the election, before it could actually have an effect on the economy to make.
Right, because it takes months for any change in Fed policy, anywhere downward change anyway, to show up anywhere other than the stock market.
Yeah, right. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying. I go through the history of the Fed all the time, and I just don't see a situation where this has ever happened before. The Democratic Party has seen. Now we're into the 12th year where a Democratic president has never seen a rate cut. 12 years, consecutive years, where they have never seen a rate cut. And this has never happened in our history before.
You mean throughout what? Obama,
Obama,
Biden?
and now Biden. Biden has never seen a cut. Obama never saw a cut while he was president.
Huh.
And so when you look at that, that's a 12-year
And cuts
stretch.
are stimulative.
Pardon?
And cuts are stimulative. So, in other words, the Fed never helped out any of these Democrats to have an economy that they could campaign on, for example.
But every Republican got those cuts. And not only did every Republican get those cuts, they got cuts that were like 0.5, 0.75, and then 1% for both Donald Trump.
But,
and
you know, the Fed
1%
chair
for
during
George W. Bush.
Obama's time was Janet Yellen. She was a Democrat. Doesn't that kind of put a hole in your theory that there's a partisan bias here?
Well, when you understand what they did to Obama, when you take the Fed rate down to zero at the start of an administration, that means he's more likely not to ever get a cut. Mm-hmm. That's stimulated. So what he's going to get hikes. And
but we were trying to dig our way out of the crash, the Bush crash of 2008 that was caused by, real estate speculation and the deregulation of same.
I'm of the opinion that you should never take the Fed rate down to zero. I think that is it's one of those things that once you go down there, then what are you going to do to stimulate the economy?
Right.
And it's not even necessary.
Well, what you do, what they do when they get down to zero and it's still not working is they start buying bonds like crazy. I mean, you and I have had this conversation before, Larry.
Yeah, well, they did do that. Not only did they take it down to zero, they also bought bonds like crazy.
$5 trillion.
Yeah, and to help the corporations out.
Right.
But in the case of Obama, when they took it down to zero, that means the banks don't loan money out to ordinary people like you and I.
Yep.
They will loan it out to billionaires, and so the billionaires get all the great rates. Right. But regular people don't get that, so they don't get to stimulate the economy by going out and taking out a loan. And so you end up with a situation where even businesses and people who are trying to buy homes, they can't get a loan, and that causes the economy to get slower, right. Which is what we saw when Obama was president. So those 1% rates that they gave Obama was punitive.
Yeah.
They were not.
So are you suggesting, Larry, that you believe a recession is on its way? We're gonna hit a break here in a second.
No, I actually think that I still maintain that because Joe Biden put that 15% tax limit on corporations, they have to pay 15%. Mm-hmm. When I look at the record always shows that even if it's a small increase in taxes, that inoculates your economy from having a recession. And that's the reason why Bill Clinton never had a recession. It's the reason why Obama never had a recession. Even George H.W. Bush, once he increased taxes just a tiny bit, right. He didn't have a recession from that point forward.
Right. Interesting. Larry, thank you. Always appreciate your insights and value them. Thank you so much for the call. It's 46 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls here on Anything Goes Friday. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Ivan in Canada. Hey, Ivan, where in Canada are you?
Hey, hi. How you doing?
Good.
I'm up in the Great North.
Okay, in the Great North. Okay, what's up?
I'd like to talk about an industry profit that's actually very toxic to the entire world, and that's fluoride. And I'm sure Santos is not going to be happy about hearing this, but one of the biggest production of fertilizer, the byproduct of producing nitrogen for that is fluoride.
I thought that was a byproduct of producing aluminum.
No, actually, there's an industry show that actually shows that huge farms in Florida, they drain the floodplains in some of Florida and made giant fertilizer plants.
Right.
And the byproduct that's being produced is fluoride.
So, Ivan,
And,
we've got literally a lifetime worth of research on the impact of fluoridated water. Communities have been doing this since the 1950s, and what we find is that tooth decay, particularly in children, goes down, and nothing else seems to happen. What's your concern about the fluoride?
Okay, if you were to put your hand in a barrel of fluoride, you would be dead in under 1 minute.
Yeah, well, the same is true of a lot of substances. I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't. Yeah, the amounts of fluoride that are in the water we're talking, particles per billion.
They're microparts per billion. Yes, that's true. But still, if a product can kill you, if you were to put your hand in it, why is it being put in the water and in toothpaste?
Well, I mean, drink a gallon of olive oil, you'll probably die too. Well, you probably actually have the worst GI problems of your life.
True.
But, just because something is toxic in large quantities doesn't mean it's going to harm you in small quantities.
No, but the thing is, if it's toxic, why is it being passed on into the water supply?
I remember this in the 1950s and 60s. My dad's buddies in the John Birch Society were all flipped out about fluoride, and they were convinced that it was part of a communist plot to destroy America. Some of them thought it was going to give us all cancer. Others of them thought it was going to give us all mental retardation or something like that, like lead does. I just don't think the science has backed up any of that, Ivan.
Well, okay, you might be true. You know what? Being informed, I'd like to say I love your show. I think you're the voice of reasoning in America, and I appreciate it because I watch your show all the time. Every time you put your show on, I think it's the best information that people can get out there.
Well, thank you, Ivan. I encourage you, if you're concerned about fluoride, to look it up. And I realize that there's a lot of kind of wackadoodle stuff out there on the internet. But, the solid research suggests that we need not be hysterical about it, or that it actually, because tooth decay can actually be, can lead to much larger problems in your body. I mean, it can be very, very destructive.
Well, yeah,
to people.
Of course. Your mouth is your health.
Yeah. So what happens is the teeth absorb the fluoride and bond it with the calcium and basically harden the calcium in the tooth, in the enamel of the tooth, and that makes it resistant to tooth decay. And that's, as far as I can tell, a good thing. But Ivan, thanks for the call, and looking forward to your thoughts in the future on these things. 51 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it. Welcome back, 9 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Paul in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Tom. Recently, a couple times you were talking about Social Security benefits, and you mentioned that you talked about the top 5 years or earning years.
That's my understanding. Was I wrong?
Oh, I'm not an expert, but I do know how to use Google. So I'm on the Social Security website right now.
Right.
I know I don't like people to read, but I'm going to read this real quickly. You need at least 10 years of work, 40 credits, to qualify for Social Security retirement benefits. we base the amount of your benefits on your highest 35 years of earnings. If you do not have 35 years of earnings by the time you apply for retirement benefits, your benefit amount will be lower than if it would have been if you worked 35 years. And there's more to it, but you basically get the idea.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
And I do hear you, when you talk about the eliminating the $168,000 cap on Social Security,
right?
Taxation.
Yeah.
One thing you have to remember here: companies, corporations, they pay for the employees. They pay half of the Social Security tax for the employees.
That's right. It's why these corporate lobbyists are inserting themselves into the Social Security discussion.
Well, this is where that beautiful, benign Citizens United comes into play, where it allows companies to use the freedom of speech money to stop that from ever happening.
Yep.
And that's what I think is going to be, that's going to stop that from possibly ever happening until we clean house here somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we need an overwhelming Democratic majority if we want to put this country back on track. Paul, thanks for educating me. I don't know where I got that top 5 years. I thought I got that.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think I know where you got it from, Tom.
What's that?
As an example, around here in Neenah, Wisconsin, we've got a lot of paper mills. It used to be union and everything else, but they would let the workers, the mill workers, work before they retired. They would actually be nice and let them work the last 3 years or maybe 5 years overtime, a lot of overtime. And that's what their pension would be based on, their last 3 or maybe up to 5 years of their income for pensions, but not Social Security. Different animal.
Interesting. Okay. Paul, I'll take your word for it.
Can I get off on one thing on you just real quickly here?
Sure.
Okay, when you seem to flip-flop slightly on this 14th Amendment Section 3 business, okay? What camp are you in right now?
I have all along said I believe that Donald Trump committed sedition and that therefore he is not qualified to hold office. Where I'm ambivalent is, if the Supreme Court agrees with me and says he can't run, actually I think that'll be a good thing. I think his whole movement will fizzle. But there's a lot of hand-wringing among Democrats about this. There's some Democrats who are like, no, we've got to beat him at the ballot box to prove that the guy's a fascist and people don't want him and all this kind of stuff. I would just soon see him taken off the ticket, frankly.
Well, yeah, Tom, because we got 4 things here. We got ignorant, deranged voters that think Trump was sent by some god. Yep. We got gerrymandering. We got voter suppression, and we have the Electoral College. Yeah. We don't forget, Hillary won by 3 million.
Yep.
The voters really didn't choose in that case, did they?
No, and the same with George W. Bush. Al Gore won by 500,000 votes. Yeah, you're right. Well, I need to move along. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, and if we don't use that 14th Amendment, we're being like Trump. We're terminating the Constitution or parts of it.
Well, it is before the Supreme Court right now. And it's, this is going to be a real tough one for them because, I was talking about this earlier. I think that at least some of the members, I think Clarence Thomas, would love a Trump dictatorship. I'm not so sure that that's true of all the other conservatives, particularly John Roberts. But I do think that there's a high probability that they're terrified of Trump and his people, or at least of the neo-fascists that seem to come out of the woodwork every time Trump tweets somebody's name or attacks, some individual commentator or worker or, anybody. Look at what he did to E. Jean Carroll. Look at what he did to Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman. So you've got to wonder, if Brett Kavanaugh's got little kids, is he worried about that? I'm guessing he is. So, will Trump succeed in intimidating the Supreme Court? I think that's the big question right now, and we're just going to have to wait and see. Paul, I got to run, but thanks for the call. We'll continue on the other side of this break. Donald Trump wants no labels to run a candidate, and I got a geeky science for you about multivitamins and memory. Interesting stuff. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann Program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
It's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program and everybody else on Free Speech TV. It's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here. Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And, of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program. And we would like you to, I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that, and every 4 years we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now. Becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is, and I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program here on this beautiful Anything Goes Friday, well, ice-covered Anything Goes Friday here in Portland, Oregon. I hope the weather's a little better where you are, or a little safer. We've got, people injuring themselves all over the place. Although it's going to be warming up tomorrow, I guess. So which means that the storm that we had yesterday, the day before, and all the way back to Tuesday is going to be hitting the rest of the country over the rest of the week. So anyway, Donald Trump smiles as No Label works to put him back in the White House, writes Ian Rifowitz for the Daily Kos. No Labels is, of course, this group that is made up of a bunch of old Democratic political consultants who were tied in with the Clintons and Joe Lieberman, who got basically kicked out of the Clinton world, and it sure looks like they swore revenge or something, because they've now raised over $70 million from, much of it came from Harlan Crow, the very, Republican billionaire who owns Clarence Thomas. And they've raised 70 some odd million dollars to put a candidate on the ticket to take votes away from Joe Biden. I mean, it's just very clear that this is what they're all about, and of course enriching themselves. But, we'll see where this goes. The Lincoln Project just tweeted, No Labels is a dark money group that is so consumed with its own quest for power and relevancy that it's willing to risk electing Trump despite their own acknowledgement that he's a dangerous ideologue. Ideologue is speaking gently. The other thing is that they've avoided disclosure because they're not registered as a political party. They're registered as a social welfare organization, so they're not having to disclose their donors. So they're not a political party, but they're running somebody for president? Really? There's something skeezy here. Now, No Labels has written a doozy of a letter to the Department of Justice demanding a criminal investigation into people who are trash-talking No Labels. They're saying that this is a highly coordinated, conspiratorial, partisan, and often unlawful conspiracy, end quote, by Democratic and other anti-Trump groups that have the temerity to oppose them. Now, they didn't actually present any evidence of wrongdoing by people who are calling them out. In fact, they said, we don't have subpoena or grand jury power. We cannot do the kind of investigation that is needed like the DOJ can. In other words, these people are making us hurt. Please go investigate them. Make their lives miserable. Right. Mark Elias, who's the attorney who went 64 for 64 in court against Trump's lie that the 2020 election was stolen. Mark Elias writes, I've read a lot of dumb letters in my career. This letter from No Labels could be the dumbest. It is so stupid, I have to wonder if they had a Trump lawyer write it. Right. Oh, my. All right, that and Geeky Science for you. This is fascinating. This is a substantial study. It was, let me get the details here. This is the gold standard of methodology, right? Double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trial. 5,000 participants over a 3-year period. It was published yesterday in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, a peer-reviewed journal. And what they did was they gave half of the people a multivitamin. The multivitamin they used was Centrum Silver for adults age 50 plus. And these were all people over 50. They gave half of them a daily multivitamin, and they gave half of them a sugar pill that they thought was a daily multivitamin, and they followed them for 3 years. And this is what they found. I'll just quote from Marlene Simmons in the Washington Post yesterday. A daily multivitamin may slow memory loss among those 60 and older by about 2 years, according to a study released Thursday. And this is the third in a series of studies assessing the cognitive effects of daily multivitamins on older adults. The group taking the multivitamin was 2 years younger in memory function. This is after taking the vitamin for 3 years. Was 2 years younger in memory function compared with the group taking a placebo. The studies are part of the COCO Supplement and Multivitamin Outcomes Study, COSMOS, a larger body of research examining the health effects of certain dietary supplements. It was done, and now this wasn't some wacky health food group that did this. This was done by Massachusetts General Hospital, Brigham and Women's Hospital, Columbia University, and Wake Forest University. The first study looked at 573 individuals over a 3.1 year period. This is one of the professors, Professor Manson, a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. Quote, the results are stunning and strong in their consistency. Each study shows a slightly different result, but taken together are a powerful indication of the overall benefits of multivitamins on memory and cognitive aging. So I just ordered some multivitamins. I like my favorite brand of vitamins, and this is not a paid endorsement or anything. I just, for years and years and years, I have loved Life Extension brand. It's a company that makes vitamins, and I think they make probably the highest quality vitamins in the country. They've got their own website. It's probably lifeextension.com, but you should Google it to make sure. And they have a little magazine, a little newsletter that they send out, and they've got good stuff, good products. But anyhow, they did this with Centrum. I mean, it's something you can buy in a drugstore. All right, let's pick up your calls. It's Anything Goes Friday. Dave in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, real quick to tag on at your caller Keno earlier with that Finnish lady mentioning about stuff that America, we could copy from Finland. And other thing did not mention is their education system, which is basically tops in the world. And they've concerted efforts to teach the students about fake news, and
that's right.
And media literacy is part of their national core curriculum. And
that's right. That they start in second grade in Finland.
Yeah, right.
And critical thinking skills also are taught in Finnish schools.
Yeah, they started that back in 2014.
Yep.
You know, before the 2016 election and that. But what I was going to question you on at the beginning of the show, you mentioned about that gallows that they were planning to hang Pence on and that.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered now, how did they get this gallows up there? The lumber and all of this stuff to the Capitol grounds. Did the Capitol Police or the secret agents or the Secret Service guys? Nobody questioned these people?
Yeah,
and then, they put it together.
I've been wondering the same thing, Dave, and I've wondered that out loud on this program many times over the years. I have no clue. I've not seen any. Nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has been prosecuted for anything having to do with the gallows.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went when they were done, although I'm guessing that probably the police hauled it off. But I just don't know.
Because you think of when they had that Boston, marathon bombing. I mean, they were able to find these two guys carrying a pressure cooker amongst millions of people.
Yeah.
And you think with the security cameras they would have these people on, and
yeah, and you would think that the Capitol building would have security cameras on the grounds.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, somebody's sneaking up with a machine gun. So I'm guessing the FBI. I'm sorry?
I said pounding and building a damn gallows and putting a rope up and.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the hell's going on here? I don't know. If anybody does know, give us a call. To the show. I'm baffled. I mean, this is one of the great unsolved mysteries. That and why were there only 100 and some odd police there, or whatever the number was? Why were there so few police officers at the Capitol when everybody in the country knew what was coming? Donald Trump had said it's going to be wild. I mean, it was all over social media. Anybody who watched Facebook or Twitter could tell you that there was going to be hell to pay on the Capitol on January 6th, and yet the Trump administration's military refused to do anything. Dave, I got to run. Thanks for the call.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
15 minutes past the hour. Back with more of your calls on Anything Goes Friday right after this. And welcome back. John in Roselle, Illinois. Hey, John, thanks for watching Free Speech. What's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate all you do. Just real quick, though, those gallows, every time I saw pictures of those seemed like kind of mock gallows. So I don't know if they were real or not. I don't know if you were able to determine that.
It was definitely real. The noose was not even 6 feet above the base of the gallows. And so some people have said, hey, you couldn't hang somebody, then the noose wasn't high enough. But if you put that noose around somebody's neck and then you push their feet out beyond the edge of the platform, it was more than 6 feet to the ground. And so it would have broken their neck.
Okay. Yeah, I just was wondering about that. But the reason I called, though, is regarding the representative from Razom about Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept referring to them, I think, as like a petro dictatorship or something of that nature.
Russia, yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. So the other thing I'm curious. I've been in the solar industry for several years now, and right after the war started in Ukraine, battery prices went up a ton. So I always wondered, like, why was that? I heard because of lithium, which is a key component in batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So just out of curiosity, I went online and took a look at lithium deposits throughout the world. And very interestingly, the Donbass region of Ukraine is the farthest west you see lithium deposits in Europe.
Wow,
so
interesting.
I think Russia probably wants to maintain a stranglehold on the energy supply to Europe because they already have natural gas, right?
Right, and oil.
So lithium's probably the... And you can find that... I printed the map. Unfortunately, at the bottom, I can't really see what it was. But if you just look online, you'll be able to see that. Just search lithium.
No, I'll take your word for it. We just found a big lithium deposit in California. a year or so ago.
Did you? Okay, yeah.
So it's tied up in environmental regulations right now, but one of the things I thought was interesting, was that in a way, I mean, you want to, and I didn't say this when I had Svitlana on because it could sound kind of crass, but in a way, having 45% of your country's energy infrastructure destroyed could be a blessing in disguise if the world gets together and says, let's rebuild this, only this time instead of with, coal-fired power plants and nuclear power plants, let's rebuild it with solar and wind and, create a green, which is what she was basically pitching.
Yeah, well, I'm in Chicago, and our city burned down, and they rebuilt it as a gorgeous city because of the fact that high rises were just coming into their own when right after the Chicago fire. So,
yeah, that was the 19-teens, wasn't it? The Chicago fire?
Yeah, exactly. So Chicago benefited really from being burned to the ground and being able to rebuild.
Yeah, I suspect that is not an uncommon thing. It's obviously there's a lot of tragedy involved, and that's why I didn't say it quite that way. Every day in Ukraine, people are dying at the hands of Russian brutality. I think it could be a model. It could be a test case for the rest of the world in terms of producing a green power system.
If we could keep Trump away from the White House.
Yes. Well, that's the wild card right now for the whole planet. John, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. It's 19 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds with more of your calls on Anything Goes Weekend. Stay tuned. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So a lot of people are wondering in America that we can't have nice things. Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Weekend. Bill in Sun City, Arizona. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. You there?
I am. Hey, Bill.
All right. If I ask you what the sign is for peace, with your fingers, you could show me, or you could draw it on a piece of paper.
Yeah, the V.
Man, women, birth, death, infinity. Thanks to Ben Casey, we know those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tom, what's the sign for the truth?
I don't know.
You should know it. It should be readily come to your mind.
What is it?
Because the sign for the truth is an open book.
Oh, sweet. Sweet. As an author, I appreciate that.
Well, I thought you would, but here's what I'm going to suggest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to suggest that we adopt a truth pledge. Our generation needed a sign. It was the peace sign. This generation needs a sign, a guarantee of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the truth pledge, somewhere on your advertising or in your video screen, the small insignia of an open book. And as we take that truth pledge, we apply it. Often when I talk to people, they ask me where I get my information. How do I know it's true? How do I identify who the people are that are speaking the truth? An open book, Tom. The truth pledge, a sign. We have to show the people a sign.
Well, I like the idea, Bill. I like it. Thank you very much for that. Jim in Valley Center, California. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind today?
Tom, I want to ask your solution to the homeless issue But before you give it to me, I just want you to know I live in a very red district, and there are very, very few Trump signs. Piggybacking on your list, that Trump's influence is not as big as the media is making it.
Yeah, although they will increase as we head into the election. But you know, I get what you're saying, Jim. Homelessness. The thing that I've learned in the last 2 years, and I learned it when I was researching an article that I wrote a year ago for Hartmann Report, was that, and this came out of some work that was done by Zillow, you know, the real estate company, the online real estate listing company. What they found was that in any community in America, when the average rent exceeds 34% of the average income in the community, homelessness starts going up. So it appears that homelessness is a subset, to a large extent, now of unaffordability, you know, the lack of affordable housing. So there are two other variables. You've got people who are drug addicts, and you've got people who are mentally ill. And, you know, Reagan ended the mental hospitals, and suddenly we had mentally ill people on the streets. And you know, drug addiction is a really serious problem. In fact, I think you could argue that it is a form of mental illness, although it can be a transient one. But those two things require their own separate solutions. We need to, you know, revive our mental institutions, and we need to be doing something for addiction, for addicts. But in terms of housing affordability, we need to build more housing units. We have a shortage of housing in the United States. And one of the big problems that's driving this, Jim, is that Wall Street got into the act in 2009. In 2008, when you had the Bush crash, housing prices in the United States dropped by about 20% right across the board. I mean, just the value of housing just collapsed. And so what happened was some of the hedge funds said, hey, maybe we can invest in this. And they started buying up real estate and flipping what would have been owned homes into rental homes. And the result of that, now, you know, in some communities, you know, 1 in 5 houses, 1 in 10 houses are owned by, you know, Wall Street, these giant real estate funds out of Wall Street, out of New York. And that, in my opinion, is one of the main things that is driving homelessness in the United States. We have more empty properties in America than we have homeless people, number one. Number two, we've got more homes that are owned by people outside the United States who never live in them, who own them as you know, rental properties and investments, than we have homeless people. So there's, you know, weirdly, Ron DeSantis passed a law in Florida saying that Chinese people can't buy real estate in Florida any longer. And I'm guessing, you know, it's going to get litigated probably to the Supreme Court. But I really think that we need to, and most countries do this. Most countries say that, you know, if you're going to own land in our country, there are a whole bunch of hoops you've got to jump through, and you've got to live in it part of the year. And, you know, you can't just use our real estate, particularly our residential real estate, as another way to make money, as an investment. And I think that in America, we need to be doing something very much like that.
My understanding is that Mexico, you don't buy the land, you just buy the property, the building. A foreigner cannot own the land that your house is built on. But I agree 100% with your analysis. And being an old guy, I see the effect of getting away with the mental institutions. It's just
we saw it in the 80s.
Shame,
you know, when Reagan shut down the mental hospitals, suddenly we had homeless people.
Absolutely.
And I hitchhiked across the United States in 1967 or 60, I think it was 67, from Michigan to San Francisco, and spent the summer there. And never saw homeless people, other than, you know, hippies like me who were just kind of sleeping in people's park. But I mean, we weren't homeless people. It was, and then comes Reagan, and suddenly, you know, we've got mentally ill people wandering around, and so I see it as a three-dimensional product, or a problem, three-aspect problem. But the main aspect is affordability of housing, and I need to write another piece about that. It's been a while since I've written about it. Jim, thank you.
The one thing, okay,
real quick.
The one thing I would add is that we've got to figure out a way to get the people off humanely, but we got to get them off, because no one likes what happens in front of your own property.
Oh yeah, you know, absolutely. It's just so wrong. And I'm seeing a next door neighbor. You know, people all worried about dogs, you know, during these storms. What about people? Jim, I got to run.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Actually, we should be able to take care of both, right? 27 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls on Anything Goes Friday. I'll be right back with you. Hey, it's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program, and everybody else on Free Speech TV, it's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network, and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being, and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the eighth day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here, Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, you know, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, you know, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program, and we would like you to. I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now. because we're heading into an election year, and election years, particularly every 4 years, with the, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing, but every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that, and every 4 years we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now and becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the Patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is, and I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support. From international trade policy to immigration policy to housing, we've got all kinds of topics. The wars between Republicans and Democrats, the Republican efforts to induce fascism in the United States. A great selection of opinions will be found over at HartmannReport.com. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Jan in Spokane, Washington. Hey, Jan, what's up?
A couple of quick things. One of them, I just found out. See, I was raised during the George Wallace administration in the Deep South. My family was a cult of family, and they fell into the cult of personality that was George Wallace. My grandfather was the Grand High Priest of the Royal Arch Masons of the state of Alabama and helped induct George Wallace into the Masons.
Wow.
I just discovered that QAnon, one of their main lines that they promote is from the Masons. It's part of a Masonic initiation ritual where the Masons, there's a call and response during the initiation, and the line is, the dark clouds are gathering. And that response is, the storm is coming.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So I think it would be just hilarious if all these conspiracy theorists who have been going, ooh, the Masons are all this and the Masons are all that, if they find out that they've been being spun by the Masons all along, I think that would be hilarious.
George Washington was a Mason. The Mason.
I know. And this is the thing. I know that the Masons aren't this way everywhere, but in the South, during the Civil Rights era, it was a place where they could go and no one could hear them make their plans.
Yeah, I get it.
It was a secret society for the Civil Rights Movement. My grandfather and my parents started a chapter of the White Citizens Council, and they later started another chapter in a different town. So they were very heavily involved. I had to escape that cult.
Well, good. I'm glad you did.
Back then, it was terrible. It was terrible, and it took me until I was 30 to escape. Wow. The other thing is, I want to put something forward to you. I can't say the direct answers right now, but I want to ask you, who had to die so that Donald Trump could become president, so that he could run for president on a clear field? There was somebody that was standing in his way, and the no labels is part of that.
What are you talking about?
So is the energy sector. And after this happened, Scott Pruitt, Rex Tillerson, there's a whole bunch of people, Murray Energy, all of these people got positions in the Trump administration.
Right.
After this happened, after this man died.
So who died?
It was necessary for him to die.
Who are you talking about?
Aubrey McClendon.
I have no idea who that is.
He was in Oklahoma. He owned the Oklahoma Thunder. He did great things for Oklahoma City. He died in an accident. He was supposed to attend a dinner with Vicente Fox, the ex-president of Mexico.
Right.
They were looking to put they wanted to put a pipeline across into Mexico, across the border into Mexico. Aubrey McClendon was all about natural gas. He had seen to it that over 140 coal facilities had been shut down because he thought coal was a dirty energy, and he was right. He was all about natural gas. At one point, Aubrey McClendon controlled more land in the United States than anybody else through his natural gas leases. It went all the way. He followed the Marcellus Shale.
Right. Wow, fascinating.
Okay, and
I'm going to have to do some homework here, Jan. Thank you for the tip. That's fascinating. Appreciate it. Lance in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Lance, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Good afternoon there. Hey, Tom, two quick things. What happens, this is only speculation. What happens, one, if Israel finds out that Hamas was behind the attack, there? And two,
I think they already know that.
Information. Remember I told you that Newsmax and those other stations are using the over-the-air channels, for the cord cutters out there. So I do have the channel. I do have the
No, I've seen a few of them now since we had that conversation. I've noticed that there are some of these old UHF stations. Some of them used to be educational stations. They're kind of low-budget operations, and some of them are picking up these fringe right-wing channels.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So they are using that.
Yep.
But it's as far as Israel, Tom, that's a big, scary thing. I mean, if they find out that they had something to do with that.
Well, Israel knows that Hamas did that. Hamas is bragging about
it. That's scary.
Yeah. Okay. Lance, thank you. Mike in Fresno, California. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on this litter box thing.
Yeah,
if
furries.
You're an elementary school teacher and you have an active shooter, the first thing you do is you lock the door, you take all your kids, and you hide in the coat closet. What are the odds that one of those kids is going to need to pee?
So you're arguing that there should be a litter box in the coat closet in case there's a shooter?
No, I'm saying that schools that have adopted an active shooter protocol have put litter boxes in the case that they have to go into lockdown.
Yeah, I'm not believing it, Mike. I mean, there's a certain logic to it, right? But I'm not believing it. This whole furry thing was originally started by some people who were trying to punk Republicans, and it worked. The Republicans believed it. I mean, it's crazy. Mike, thanks for the call. Chip in Lawrence, Kansas. Hey, Chip, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call today. I tried to get through on Monday on Martin Luther King Day. I just was wondering if you ever heard the story about the nurse who was the last one out of the room because when Martin Luther King was shot, he was still alive when he reached the hospital. And this nurse, a black woman, told her family till the day she died that she was the last one forced out of the room with a couple doctors, and she looked back just as the door was shutting, and they saw them picking up a pillow and placing it over his face. Did you ever hear about that?
I've never heard that, no. And my understanding was that he died on the scene. But I'm no scholar of the Martin Luther King assassination, so
yeah, I've heard it like 3 times. I've read about it and seen stories about the family talking about it.
Huh.
So I'm just wondering if you had heard about that.
I have not. I'll have to, the next time I talk to Lamar, I'll have to ask him. I mean, he wrote a book that includes the King assassination. Fascinating stuff. Chip, thank you. Zeke in Portland. Hey, Zeke, what's on your mind today?
Well, I think I just found the last piece of my jaw after it fell to the floor yesterday when you were talking with Phil Ittner about Ukraine. And you did this, Tom. You asked him if he, Ittner, thought the upcoming so-called elections in Russia in March would have an effect on the war, which very much implied that you think there's democracy in Russia, which there is not. It is a
You're absolutely right, Zeke. No, my But there is a performance that looks like democracy that's going on in Russia. And there actually is a candidate right now. There was a piece about this in the Financial Times day before yesterday. There's a candidate who is anti-war, who's saying it's time to end the Ukraine war. And, so Russian politics is not, entirely unipolar, even with a dictator.
Well, there is no chance that so-called election, it is a mockery of democracy, and it will have no effect.
No, he has no chance of winning. But the question is, would his presence in the election cause Putin to redouble his efforts to quickly destroy Ukraine, or might it cause him to try to drag it out? I mean, that was the essence of my question. Will domestic political considerations affect Putin's prosecution of the war? I don't know the answer to the question. I'm not sure Phil answered the question in a way that I understood.
Well, he didn't answer the question. He never went there. I listened very carefully to what was said, and he never picked up your question.
Yeah.
However, there's a meme afoot now that Biden is reconsidering his strategy per the war, and it's total BS.
Yes.
Biden made the call, and this is not just me speaking. This is Michael Hirsch, Foreign Policy Magazine, saying that Biden made the call in 2022 that Putin could not be allowed to lose this war. And that is why he has foot dragged on every weapon system from the get-go. The reason this counteroffensive, quote, failed, unquote, in the summer and fall of 2023 was because Biden didn't give them the weapons that they wanted to start.
There was a very real debate inside the administration about, if we kick Putin's ass too hard, is that going to blow up in our faces? Is that going to provoke a nuclear war? I think by a year in, they had pretty much abandoned that position. But that was an actual conversation that was happening inside our government. I hope that that's no longer their position, but and I believe it's no longer their position. Zeke, I got to run, but thank you for the call. And you're right. Russia's not a democracy. It's not even remotely a democracy. They were close. From what, the first couple years of the 90s, up until Putin really solidified his power in the 2000s. It's 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with more of your calls in just a second.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Clay in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Hey, Clay, what's on your mind today?
Mike Johnson.
Okay.
Did you see, I believe it was yesterday, I saw a clip on Randy Rhoads where he was being interviewed on one of those news channels, Fox probably, but he said he'd been talking with Donald Trump about the border and the Ukraine
I saw the clip.
And
it was from 3 days ago on Fox, and he said that he said Donald called me just night before last, and we talked about this. And he didn't say Donald told me not to give any money to Ukraine, but that was the essence of what he was saying.
Well, why is he consulting with Donald Trump?
Because Donald Trump is the head of their party.
Well, okay, I guess. I was just wondering if that could be some justification for somebody in Congress objecting to him, that one objection to get rid of the speaker thing, but I guess not.
Probably not. I mean, if you get rid of Mike Johnson, you're probably going to end up with somebody even worse at this point.
I can't imagine that.
No, Jim Jordan, James Comer. I mean, these guys are not without ambition. They would love to be the Speaker of the House, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, for God's sake. Well,
Mike's, his religious agenda is just.
He wants.
I'm afraid of that.
He wants to tear down the wall of separation between church and state here in the United States. He is unambiguous about it. He's not ashamed of it. He brags about it, and it's a threat. It's a threat to our country. Clay, thank you for the call. Pearson in Lamarck, Texas. Hey, Pearson, what's on your mind today?
Well, two things that we need to keep in mind with regards to right-wing mentality, the way they think. The first has to do with, you mentioned to public cameras, security cameras on the day of January 6th. That's correct. Here's the other thing. They document, those mutes who showed up January 6th, they documented everything they said and did. And it's hard to believe that there's not some footage somewhere that has not been released for one reason or another as to when they brought that onto the grounds and how they assembled it.
Yeah,
that's history.
You would think.
That's history for them.
Yeah, you would think.
That's American history in the making.
But have you ever seen anything?
No, but I'm sure they've got it, and for some reason we need to know why it hadn't been released. That's number one. Number two, relating to this, is we have to be very careful with the way they spin everything, including these furry things. I don't believe 1 minute about the furry story. This is how I explain the furries. They found out that there was 1 or 2 elementary school teachers who, in their charges, the kindergarten to third graders, those young children, they react very quickly. Their physiology reacts very quickly to stress. So when you stress them, if they think they're going to die or could die,
no,
that happens.
No, the furry thing was an adult thing, and there was a kind of a kinky sexual aspect to it, people dressing up like animals and having sex and stuff. I mean, that's real.
Right.
But, little kids in class saying, I want a litter box? No, it literally does not exist.
Let me finish. Allow me to finish. What the Republicans do, they take the reality of fighting this for the young children, and they spin around to pretend that there's this
and twist it.
In order to discourage our side from doing something decent for kids. This is what they do.
It may well be. It may well be. Pearson, thanks. That's the latest furry theory. It's not unreasonable. We'll be right back with your calls. Stay tuned. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour, and I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. One of the grand questions that political scientists have been scratching their heads over for years in America is, why do right-wing billionaires fund anti-black history movements? Why are they pouring money into these people? Why are they funding anti-trans movements? I mean, what does this have to do with being a billionaire? Well, it turns out it has a lot to do with it, and here's why. Almost 30 million Americans lack health insurance. 37 million of us live in dire poverty. 1 in 5 of us are illiterate. 1/4 of Americans suffer from a diagnosable mental illness and can't get treatment. 316 people are shot every day in America. 44% of us carry student debt. And the billionaires don't want to pay income taxes to deal with any of these problems of society. That's the real issue. If they can get us fighting with each other over black history or over trans people or kids, they win. Then we're not talking about taxing them, raising their taxes to where they should be. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com that you can read and see all the stats and all the hot links. Check it out. All righty, picking up your calls here. John in Seattle. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom, good morning. Great to talk to you again. I've got just something I want to throw out there. You remember Paula Reed, the woman who accused Biden of sexually molesting her?
Yeah, vaguely.
I think that was her name, wasn't it? What's that?
I thought Paula Reed was one who accused Clinton, but whatever.
And I could have the name wrong, but whatever. There's a woman who I guess
maybe
was
it was Tara Reid.
Well, whatever. Anyway, but there's a woman, I could have the name wrong, who was a Biden staffer who accused him of putting her up against the wall and doing what Trump always bragged about doing to women. And anyway,
I never heard of that, John.
I read some.
Never heard of it.
Well,
so are you?
I mean, I'm sure that this accusation came out during the election, because I discussed it with people.
Yeah, well, a lot of things come out. So what's the point? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, but anyway, so I was reading recently that this woman has moved to Russia.
Oh,
so
geez.
where I'm going with it is wondering if, just wanted to throw it out there, if this is something that Putin could throw into the mix when we've got E. Jean Carroll and these sort of real rape accusations.
Right.
Something that could damage Biden. Just throwing it out there. I have no idea if this might happen, but I just wanted people to kind of have that in their awareness if it comes out. That's all.
You know, I have a vague recollection of one of the women who, or a woman who had made some kind of claim against either Clinton or Biden, or maybe even Obama, moving to Russia. But it's a vague memory, John. I'm sorry. But you know, check it out. Thanks for the call, Jeff in Portland. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hey, happy Friday, Tom. I wasn't sure you guys would be doing the show, so you know, it's still really icy out.
Neither were we until we got here.
Well, thanks for persevering. And your Hartmann report this week about using EVs to power a house during outages, that was the only mention of climate change and the connection to climate change with the extreme weather this week. So people should check your article out on that. And the movie you mentioned, The Day After Tomorrow, which kind of presages this kind of weather, was about 20 years ago, I think, 2004. And I do want to hit on climate change, but first I wanted to expose the Mar-a-Lago plot against America. It's probably too big for a Ziggy bumper sticker, but I think the Mar-a-Lago plan, it's an acronym. Mar-a-Lago is to make America Russia and love all greedy oligarchs. And I think it's time for Democrats and the Democratic Party to reclaim the concept of patriotism. Yes. As you know, from being a peace activist in the 60s, the Vietnam War alienated a lot of young people against being patriotic. And the same thing can happen with the war in Gaza. So, you know, we need a ceasefire pronto so Biden doesn't lose the youth vote. But
I agree.
And also to prevent a wider regional war. Dan Levy had a good piece in the New York Times about that this week. But finally, Tom, with climate change, it's obviously a big issue for Gen Z and the millennials. And President Biden, he's facing a lot of really good pressure from climate activists to ban any new LNG export terminals like the proposed CP2 terminal in Louisiana, which would be 20 times the greenhouse gases as the Willow Project, the controversial Willow Project, which should also be struck down. But, you know, by banning these dirty energy products, the president would actually be bringing down prices. It would actually be a patriotic thing to do. And you've talked about that. And the last thing I'll say, I think he should also revoke the presidential permit for Line 5, which it's a disaster waiting to happen in the Great Lakes. I didn't even know he could do that, but David Holtz had a good piece on Common Dreams from January 10th about that. I don't know if you saw that.
I'll have to check it out. I didn't, but you know. Thanks for the heads up, Jeff. That's quite a list. I appreciate it, and best of the weekend to you. Denise in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, Denise, what's on your mind today?
Oh, hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. Sure. I just wanted to ask you if you ever heard of The Big Truth.
I have.
The book about
not to the best of my knowledge.
Our election system. It was created by correspondent Major Garrett and national election expert David Becker. It's an excellent book. It's not a long book. It's 300 pages. And it actually says how good our election process is. As a matter of fact, David Becker is the executive director of the Nonpartisan Center for Election Innovation and Research, and it reveals why the big lie, the fraud allegations, evaporate under scrutiny. They report what actually happened in 2020, and while calling out each Trumpian misdirection designed to con and beguile Americans into chasing phantom allegations of election crimes. It's an excellent book, and I feel like reading it again. It's so good. Yeah. So I just want to let you know if you heard of it.
Fascinating. I have not heard of it, but the big truth to counter the big lie makes a lot of sense. And yeah, this is just Trump being a sore loser, and we need to call him a sore loser much more frequently. Denise, thank you for the call. Being a sore loser implies weakness, and the one thing that draws most of these people to Trump is strength. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jay LeBlanc, Al Gorilla Rhythm, Jeremy Peterson, Connor Arroyo, Carna Verde, Martha Salinas, and Mark Thoman. All the folks who work on this program, thank you so much for watching, listening, participating, calling, letting your stations and sponsors know. Get out there, get active, tag, you're in. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Hey, it's $5 Friday. In fact, maybe we could make it $15 Friday if you're a viewer of the Thom Hartmann Program, and everybody else on Free Speech TV, it's $5 Friday. We've got enthusiastic viewers, right? People who really care about democracy, who really care about the fate and future of this network. So, you know, every now and then on a Friday, I just pop in here and ask you to consider, and this being the first week of, or the first month, excuse me, of the new year, consider as kind of your New Year's resolution to support Free Speech TV. And the easy way to do it, and this is what we try to do on the $5 Fridays, thus the $5 or $15, is to ask you to go to the Free Speech TV website, freespeech.org/donate. Very easy to find. Or just go to freespeech.org and click the donate button, and it takes you to the same place. And sign up. Become a sustaining member of Free Speech TV. Sustaining member means that you put in your credit card number and you say, here's the amount that I would like you to deduct from my credit card every month. You know, $5, $10, $15, whatever you feel comfortable with. And throughout the year, you will not only get access to exclusive virtual events and some special gifts and some kind of cool opportunities. You'll get a little newsletter periodically that brings you up to date on what Free Speech TV is doing and all that kind of thing. But most importantly, you're part of this family. You become part of this family that is this network, and the people who watch this network and the people who interact with this network. And that's a pretty cool thing. And if you don't want to do it online, if you're not internet savvy or you're a little nervous about that, you can call and talk to a real human being, and they'll just do it all for you. And that number is 877-378-8669. I'm guessing it's on your screen. So make this your easiest New Year's resolution. Now, while you are typing in freespeech.org/donate, I want to play for you a clip, just an absolutely brilliant ad, playing off an old Paul Harvey piece about, you know, God made a nation. This old Paul Harvey piece that, well, it's self-explanatory. Here it is.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
So the original Paul Harvey piece, I've got the audio here, Sean, you can play out of my computer right through the board. And this is just, you know, Paul Harvey's.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker.
So it was a very, you know, kind of noble, patriotic thing that Paul Harvey did. And of course, if you're going to talk about Donald Trump, you can't call it noble or patriotic. So the Lincoln Project really nailed it. But that said, it is $5 Friday or $15 Friday here on the Hartmann Program, and we would like you to. I'm asking you to please consider becoming a regular monthly contributor to Free Speech TV, particularly right now, because we're heading into an election year, And election years, particularly every 4 years, with the, with the online, the online fundraising that really Barack Obama made into a thing, very successful thing. But every 4 years, and I've been on this network for I think 15, 16 years, something like that. And every 4 years, we have a really hard time raising money as we head into presidential elections because people are giving to candidates, which is understandable and totally reasonable. So let's get this out of the way right now and just, go to freespeech.org/donate or call the number 877-378-8669 and make a commitment. $5 a month? It's not that much, right? It's, well, I realize for some people it is. And if you can't afford it, I honor you and, no judgment. But if you can, if $5 a month is not a lot of money for you, then please consider doing this now and becoming a member of this family, becoming a member of Free Speech TV, becoming a regular, sustaining member. Join our circle, right? Join the patriots here. Doing great work, Free Speech TV is, and I'm a real believer that they're going to be doing even better work as they move forward. The network is growing. The network is doing well. It needs you to pass the word along. Please tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV. And call now or go to the website. Thank you so much for your support.